The Roaring Twenties marked the beginnings of a change in America. After its participation in World War I, Americans found a renewed sense of patriotism and sought to develop its culture. With a new perspective and a boosted economy, new industries and businesses flourished in the United States. In particular, Hollywood and its lucrative film industry proved to be a strong contributing factor in all aspects of the Roaring Twenties. It symbolized the dreams of freedom, success, and happiness. It not only influenced American culture, but it also affected American politics and its economy. Hollywood, previously known as La Nopalera, was once a 500-acre lot that was laid out as a real estate subdivision by prohibitionist Harvey Wilcox, who envisioned a community based on his sober religious principles. Real estate agent Hobart J. Whitley arranged to purchase and disclose the lot in hopes to create a prosperous residential area. Deida Wilcox officially entitled the area to be called Hollywood. Over time, there were many changes and developments made in Hollywood. The alluring aesthetics of Hollywood featured the potential of the area in the eyes of incoming directors. The sunny beaches, rugged mountains, and exotic foliage found in the region proved as excellent backdrops for filming and made shooting outdoors favorable. As a result, more film directors moved to Hollywood and helped form Hollywood's fruitful filming industry. Due to the economic aftermath of World War I, Americans became more adamant in spending time and money on entertainment as Hollywood became home to many new films and, in turn, led America to become the leading producer of films in the world. With the development of Hollywood, film industries and movie theaters flourished. In the sensational times of the motion picture industry, movie theaters became grand places of entertainment. Movies appealed to people because their productions were made bigger and better. Huge audiences regularly attended luxurious theaters. Movie theaters attracted their audiences by advertising their theater as a place of luxury, comfort, and entertainment unsurpassed by any theater on the coast. Theaters had live orchestras to fill the silence before sound was introduced in 1927. They were areas of social gatherings where people could be together and watch a movie of their preferred choice.
Many Americans flocked to theaters to watch the films that tended to show actors and actresses having the time of their lives. The images of glamour, romance, and excitement captivated Americans who were willing to do just about anything to scrape up the necessary dimes needed for an escape. Whether a person wanted a break from reality or a grasp of it, he or she would find what they were looking for in a film. Since the movies could be played over and over again in theaters simultaneously, a mass culture that was never before seen emerged. Movies also became influences in American culture. Music, fashion, and dances during this era were shaped out of what was shown in blockbuster movies. Following the release of The Jazz Singer, jazz music spread over the masses of people and became one of the top genres of music. Liberal women in films like The Flapper starring Olive Thomas sought for equality in terms of social and sexual freedoms, which was presented by dressing more provocatively and donning short hair, creating the iconic flapper image. These flappers hung out at speakeasies, danced, smoked cigarettes, drank bootleg liquor, and partied late into the night. The Charleston dance became one of the most well-known dances of the 20s. Flappers went crazy over the Charleston dance, just as how actresses would dance in the films. Although movies heavily affected American culture, it proved to become a negative influence on American society as well. Hollywood over-glamorized the topics of prohibition, smoking, organized crime, and rather promoted these attributes, which were ultimately the ill aspects of the 20s. Instead of watching cold-blooded murder and gang wars on the big screen, many watched it occur in the streets. For example, Al Capone, one of the most notorious gangsters in Chicago, became the subject of numerous films. Al Capone and many other gangsters participated in criminal activities such as promoting brothels and smuggling liquor made secretly after prohibition was fully enforced. Not only did movies exploit incidents where stars were involved in dope addiction, sex, scandals, unpopular divorces, and sensational murder trials, but they also brought a proliferation of restaurants and later nightclubs, which contributed to Hollywood's reputation as a party town. Though films on gangsterism and sex became a guilty pleasure that helped generate huge profits for Hollywood and helped increase cinema popularity, Hollywood had a history of being known as the city of sin and wickedness.
The scandalous behavior of the actors and actresses affected the behavior of American people as a whole. Typically, those who lived in big towns and cities appeared more progressive due to their easy access to theaters and trends. According to Americans living in small towns and rural areas, the flappers, speakeasies, drinkers, dance marathons, foreigners, and socialists were seen as the problems of America. On one hand, the people living in small towns and rural areas saw the modern culture of the cities as shocking and immoral. On the other hand, those from larger towns and big cities saw their opposites as big-footed and old-fashioned. As a result, the big-footed and old-fashioned voted for the conservative candidates, while the progressive voted for liberal ones. Political candidates were able to reach out to more people with the help of radios. The sound waves united the American people as a whole as it shared news of what was happening around the world. News through the radio was received faster compared to the information written in newspapers. Advertisements were made for films and products through the radio, and once again, America shared a mass culture. As the radio assisted in causing the common people to be politically aware, it attracted large crowds of people to the theaters for entertainment. Many more people became exposed to the glamorous lives of those in the Hollywood industry. After a series of risque films and off-screen scandals involving Hollywood stars, the pressure to censor movies grew. The high standards of cinema's daring films caused concern for more conservative rural states. In order to resolve the issue, studios enlisted Will Hayes to monitor and restore Hollywood's image and paid him the big bucks to defend the industry from attacks. By 1921, legislators in 37 states introduced about 100 movie censorship bills, and by 1922, 22 state legislators considered bills to impose state and local censorship. Hollywood responded by establishing a trade organization, the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America. Independent filmmakers fought back because they were furious at the monopoly and were determined to break it up. The MPPC thought them too weak to worry about and made this mistake of ignoring them. In 1921, the government got involved and quickly filed suit against the trust, charging it with violating the 1890 antitrust laws. By the end of the 1920s, Hayes' Motion Picture Production Code was established to set moral guidelines for the production of motion pictures.
Despite its limitations, the prosperity of the 20s and the rise of new classes created a market for artistic endeavors. New media promoted consumerism to a national audience. The film industry was a money-making enterprise which remained successful by producing movies that made a profit over their budget and marketing costs. Movie ticket sales soared above and beyond. Hollywood studios dominated the business by combining techniques of production, distribution, and exhibition. The movie industry and studio system were nurtured by manufacturers and salesmen who could think big and spend big. They consolidated power of big studios and movie theaters. Wealthy businessmen and college graduates came to manage motion pictures and were hired to make important money decisions, such as setting price limits for each film. Their companies were in business to make money rather than provide culture. As opposed to the silent films produced in Hollywood during the early 20s, film industries began to produce films with actors' voices heard. For the first time in history, Al Jolson was the first actor to talk in a movie. Gone are the exaggerated movements and bothersome captions to indicate the intentions of actors on screen. The movies with spoken dialogue, talkies, were more relatable to people and gave the audience a sense of realism. Although audience members appreciated the improved form of entertainment, many actors were hesitant to participate in such films since talkies ended the careers of many famous silent stars at the time. Over time, the common belief that talkies were a passing fad died and the new films were here to stay. As more people became interested in movies due to its relatability, a huge increase of ticket sales at box offices occurred. Furthermore, the use of talkies, synchronized dialogue, created new values and regulated production standards. The new American culture of spending money on forms of entertainment spread through the nation. Many Americans spent their money on tickets to movie theaters after hearing about a new hit movie on the radio. After watching actors and actresses waste their money on luxury items on screen, the audience members became consumers and wanted to copy what those famous icons did. This trend of spending money on unnecessary goods caused America to become extremely materialistic. Henry Ford's cars would appear on screen, and in turn, his Model Ts were sold all over the country. Rich and poor would buy the mass-produced car. This promotion of mass consumption caused the American public to spend so much money that they began spending money that they didn't have. Lives of Americans increasingly revolved around money and business. Many people participated in buying stocks. But the bad spending habits of most Americans, those who bought stocks couldn't stop. The obsession with stocks grew to a point where people would buy stocks with borrowed money. When the stock markets crashed in 1929, many people lost all their money and became impoverished. The Roaring Twenties were no longer roaring and a depression was inevitable.
America changed socially, which led to differences in opinion politically. Eventually, the crazy spending habits of Americans led to the stock market crash of 1929 and ended the Roaring Twenties. Nonetheless, Hollywood helped shape the 1920s through its motion pictures. It helped introduce new forms of music and dance, and was even able to change the political image of the United States in the wake of World War I. Similarly today, movies continue to influence the views and opinions of its audience. A recurring trend can be found in history, but throughout the 20s, Hollywood was a major contributing factor that heavily affected all aspects of the Roaring Twenties, both good and bad.